Hello, I'm Meg Salyer, and I'd like to welcome you to the Ward 6 Council Show. With me today is developer Gary Brooks, who celebrated a ribbon cutting this week for an incredibly exciting downtown project called The Edge. And Gary, we're going to be building a number of apartment units at the corner of 13th and Walker, basically between 12th and 13th, Walker and Dewey.
That's correct.
Right at the edge of Heritage Hills and right at the edge of Midtown, hence the name.
Yeah, we actually crowdsourced that name, which is something we've done occasionally. We went on the internet and you describe the project and you get input from all over the world, and The Edge at Midtown came up, and I thought, well, that's probably pretty fitting.
Well, that's great. Crowdsource. I've just learned something. I'm going to have to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, we use that quite a bit in our names, and so it's been pretty effective for us.
Great. Well, Gary, you're very well known in the development community. You've done a lot of successful projects, but this is the first undertaking downtown. So tell us a little bit about how it came to be and what you expect the project to bring.
Well, I joked early on that I've done 2,000 units in the suburbs and nobody really pays much attention unless you're a neighbor right next door. But the minute I stepped downtown, there were an awful lot of people that wanted to know what I was doing and why and what it was going to look like. Had office downtown for many years with Mark Beffert and our companies. We moved out of downtown in about 2003. And I guess it was Chuck Wiggin had the property under contract for a number of years. The recession hit, made it really unmarketable for a townhome type project. And so Urban Renewal went back out to the marketplace for redeveloper proposals in November of 2010.
Let's identify for our viewers, you and I know exactly what we're talking about, but just to make sure people are aware of the location, we're talking about the old Mercy Hospital site, really there at 13th and Walker. And when Mercy relocated many years ago up north, the hospital property was abandoned. It was ultimately acquired by the city, by Urban Renewal. It had some serious asbestos problems. It was a very difficult project to think about redeveloping with the building in place. So ultimately the building was demolished and the site available. And probably over the last 10 years, we've had a couple of developers make proposals, but as you said, the recession came at an inopportune time, and a project that had been selected by Urban Renewal was never completed, and so the project went back out, which is when you decided to get involved.
Well, as developers, a lot of what we do is luck and timing, I think. So, it is a great piece of property. A friend called me and said, hey, you need to chase that deal. I think that's going to be a great site. I hadn't been downtown for a few years, so I wasn't real familiar with the site actually. I'd tracked it in the newspaper, but I was focused primarily on the suburbs.
Sure.
Finally listened to him after much prodding and came downtown and had flashbacks into the 80s when I used to take my wife to Kaiser's to have mint chocolate chip ice cream, and it didn't take me long to grasp the vision of the city, and Bob Howard and Mickey Clegg and Chris Fleming, what they're doing in Midtown is just spectacular. And within about an hour, I knew this was something that I needed to chase really hard.
Great. So as the project was born, tell us what it looks like today. How many units, and who do you expect your residents to be?
Well, we have 250 units. There's really nothing magical about the number when you start with the site.
Right.
And the restrictions of the site and height and all the things that kind of determine how big a box you can build. And we ended up with right at 250 units, which is a great number for us to manage, and we felt like it was a really good number of units to bring into the marketplace at any one time. Wasn't too many, wasn't too few for us to operate. So.
And the makeup of them are they 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom units? What?
Yeah, we have 159 one bedrooms.
Okay.
624 up to I think 757 square feet.
All right.
We've got 81 2 bedroom, 2 bath units. So our mix is heavy on the one beds, which is typically what we find in an urban setting. More so, we might have a stronger mix of 2s versus 1s in the suburbs, but downtown we know that that's a better mix. Sizes range from 963 up to actually about 1,611 square feet on the 2 beds. Then we'll actually have 10 3-beds.
Perfect.
That we'll have some people use them as a 2-bed, 2-bath with an office. We'll have some people actually use them as 3 bedrooms, roommates,
Sure.
things like that.
Well, you know, what's happening in that Midtown area is just explosive and so exciting. You referenced Bob Howard and Mickey Clegg and Chris Fleming with the Midtown LLC, and they're doing such interesting small projects typically, but also very urban, and with the redevelopment of the Plaza Court and Restaurant Row exploding with Stella and 1492 and Louis, and we just around us Cafe do Brasil.
And the waffle, don't forget the
waffle.
gourmet waffles. That one got me excited. I love them all, but the excitement of the area, and you need every type of product. You need small infills, you need larger product, you need rehabs.
Yeah.
You know, the market needs a lot of different options and choices, and I think that's what Midtown is offering. Maybe we're not even seeing in some of the other areas, but housing is really expanding in all the zones, as you would know.
It is
of
indeed.
Downtown.
So, Gary, I know that you worked really closely with the surrounding neighborhoods, and this is an interesting project and an interesting location because you are bounded on more than one side by very significant historic neighborhoods. Talk a little bit about, you know, your conversations about the exterior and what you had to do and agreed to do to make this project fit into the neighborhood?
Well, obviously, we needed to be very sensitive to the surrounding neighbors, particularly Heritage Hills. I'm not sure if there would be another site anywhere in the city that would have this significant of surrounding a historical surrounding neighborhood. We also knew that urban renewal was going to be very concerned about it. From the original proposal, it referenced the style and the character and the surrounding neighborhood many times throughout the RFP. So when we sat down and we really began to diagnose an RFP, those words aren't in there for random. They're in there for a reason. And so we began having just some dialogue with the neighbors. I was probably a little naive. I think the first meeting there were about 100 Heritage Hills neighbors there, and you know, my style is to be pretty transparent, which sometimes can get me in trouble. But I always like people to know what I'm thinking, and if they ask me a question, the same question 6 months later, they're going to get the same answer. So I'm not sure if I may have created even more conversation after that first meeting, but you know, I want to be sensitive to. I'm a neighbor.
Right.
And I'm a significant neighbor, so you know, I respected their opinions. I didn't always agree with them, but you know, everybody's going to bring their life experience to a situation.
And we certainly know that Heritage Hills is another one of those neighborhoods that, with its designation as an HP neighborhood a number of years ago, those properties have been lovingly and beautifully restored, and so much of Oklahoma City's early history, from the Overholser Mansion there on 15th Street to, you know, you can just go down those blocks and see how much history is here. So I think there was a lot of good give and take about what that all meant, and this is a slightly different product for the urban part of downtown. So I was very grateful for the dialogue and appreciate sort of everybody being willing to come together and compromise.
Well, it was so unusual because the site is actually improved because of the neighborhood.
Right.
I mean, Heritage Hills makes the site better.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so as the developer of that site, I have to A, understand, and B, embrace the suggestions and ideas, and that's what we try to do. You know,
Thank you for doing that. And one of the other things I think it's just important to maybe get to wrap up with is parking is always an issue downtown, and I think we've spent some time together talking about parking issues. I was visiting with some downtown property owners yesterday about the issues. You've addressed that in a significant way for this project, and maybe you could just share with us a little bit about the parking structure.
I would love for the day to come when I could build 250 units and not have any parking structure. people living downtown not even needing cars.
New York City.
Unfortunately, today, I don't have that option. So
Yeah.
we have to build large parking garages. We've done our best to hide it and make sure that it's really not visible from the exterior. First thing we did was meet with the church and the school next door to try to figure out what are some of the parking issues. And so when we developed the site, we actually have some first level parking spaces that are open to the public that we expect to be used by the retailers around there. We've tried to put as much street parking as possible around the perimeter of the site, obviously not on 13th Street, but not only for the people that are coming to our retail, but also for people that are living, working in the neighborhood.
So this is truly going to be a mixed-use urban neighborhood. You're going to have retail on the ground level. You know, as you said, a great mix of units. You're going to have amenities like a dog park and some fun things on site. And, you know, I believe this is a project that will really do nothing but contribute to the continued vitality and the growth and choices available to people as they begin to think about moving back down into the inner city. So
I think so. I think when people see the end product, as it really begins to develop, it's a vacant piece of dirt, and it's hard for people to envision it, but it's much better than we initially planned.
well, it certainly is, and I'm very grateful for that. Your timeline is
It's about 22 months
22
on
months?
a project like this from start to
Great.
finish.
great. Well, I hope you'll promise to come back and talk to me
I would
when
love
we
to.
do the ribbon cutting on the other side.
That'd be great.
Great, Gary. Thank you so much.
Thank you.